If you're changing pickups on an R9 that you paid a small fortune for, then you bought the wrong R9 in my opinion. Personally, I just can't imagine buying a guitar this expensive and swapping everything. Apparently the vintage guitar LARP, don't mess with a good sounding guitar. I ruined one doing things like this. Now the guitar is no longer officially approved by Pentatonic.
You love pickup so much that
If you're changing pickups on an R9 that you paid a small fortune for, then you bought now the guitar is no longer officially approved by Tim Pierce.
It's kind of funny he made a video about a year ago.
Clearly not, because he already changed all the electronics. So the other day, I made a video where I went to Nashville to my friend Zach's shop, High Voltage Guitars, and we took my R9 Les Paul and swapped the pickups and the electronics, as well as some of the plastics and a few other small details. Now, I have to say, I was not expecting the reaction that that video got. A lot of people are pressed in the comments. People are mad that I would have the audacity to take my guitar that I paid for and change anything about it. And it's a little surprising to me for a few reasons. Now, for those of you that don't know, a little context. This guitar I bought a little over 2 years ago from Norm's Rare Guitars in Los Angeles, California. I was there with my friend Tim Pierce, and we ended up playing about 10 or 15 different Les Pauls, and I settled on this one, claiming that it was the best Les Paul that I played that day, because it was. It wasn't the most expensive one that I played. It wasn't the most prestigious or rare one. It's actually sort of a run-of-the-mill custom shop. It's a 1999 R9, not Murphy Lab, not Murphy aged, nothing like that. Just a really great example of a late 90s custom shop Les Paul. And the cool thing about that experience to me was being there with my friend Tim and having him help me pick this guitar. That really means a lot to me. I look up to Tim. I grew up listening to Tim's playing on records and watching his YouTube channel early on. So there's a ton of sentimental value here to me. And to have a player like Tim Pierce sort of sign off on a guitar like this is pretty significant in my opinion. And yes, in that video, I did say that this is my dream Les Paul, my perfect Les Paul, and I loved everything about it. And I stand by that. It's true. I did love everything about it. And quite frankly, I still do. So why did I go through the time, expense, and energy to change the heart and soul of the guitar, as some people in the comments put it? If it was perfect before, why change anything? Why ruin it? Is it really just for content? Am I just trying to, rage bait people into AdSense revenue and views for my channel? And the interesting thing about this for me is it sort of leads into something that I've wanted to talk about on this channel for a long time, but haven't really had a good avenue for until now. And these comments, I think, are indicative of a kind of bigger issue in the guitar community online as a whole. It may be prevalent in other communities, other niches online, but I see it most in the online guitar space, and that's what I want to talk about. Hey, Editor Rhett here. I wanted to break in and let you know that today we're actually dropping my brand new video course, Fretboard Fundamentals Ultimate Edition. This is my biggest video course ever. It's over 35 video lessons. There's 8 bespoke backing tracks that are downloadable that we actually use in the course to teach a lot of the concepts. Each lesson is meticulously notated with PDF and guitar profiles, so you can follow along with exactly what I'm playing on screen. And we've even expanded the course to include new sections, like a whole section on the major modes, which is how I wish I would have been taught the modes when I was in music school years ago. So if you want to find out more about what's in the course, as well as get a special launch week discount, click the link down below or here in the card, and appreciate you checking it out. Back to the video. If you're changing pickups on an R9 that you paid a small fortune for, then you bought the wrong R9. Let's start there. I'm genuinely surprised that people are so upset that I changed pickups in my guitar. Like, it's not a permanent thing, right? In fact, I kept the original pickups. In fact, I kept all the original hardware. I have the knobs, I have the original pots and capacitors, I have all the original wiring. Everything that we swapped on this guitar, I kept, because you should. I hope you're not throwing away your pickups or your hardware if you swap stuff on a guitar. You don't have to do that, right? A lot of people are upset that I changed the pickups and the electronics, and their comments read as if they think it's like a permanent change or something. And it's not. Like, with an hour's worth of work and a soldering iron, I can very easily go back to the stock setup. If I ever decided to sell this guitar, I probably would do that. I'd probably put the stock pickups back in. It's a pretty common and easy thing to do. And one argument that I saw a lot in the comments were people like, saying, oh, it's like you bought a really expensive sports car and then changed the engine and changed everything about it. No, at most, I changed the wheels. I put a different set of wheels on it and kept the stock wheels. I could very easily put the stock wheels back on and take these wheels and put them on another car. It's a weird argument. I've never seen people so upset about a pickup change before. I literally have dozens of examples over the last 6 years of making YouTube videos of me swapping pickups and electronics on guitars of all different price points, from, import Squier and Epiphone stuff all the way up to other custom shop guitars. And I've never seen the reaction from people that I got for this. And the other part of that argument, you bought the wrong R9, isn't true. The reason this guitar connected with me was the sound. I did like the sound of these original PAF style humbuckers. And what I said in that original video was I loved the pickups. And that was true, especially compared to a lot of the other Les Pauls that I played that day. I liked the sound of these pickups through that amp the best, and so did Tim. A guitar is the sum of all of its parts, and everything matters to some degree or another. Yes, that includes the wood, that includes the bridge, it includes the wiring and the pickups and the nut material, the strings. Every little detail of a guitar matters, whether it's over the actual sound of the guitar or, maybe more importantly, how the guitar feels to the player. And the things about this guitar that I loved, that caused me to buy it and pick it out against those other 15 examples at Norm's that day, are still here. It's the right weight, it's resonant, it's loud, unplugged, the neck shape is perfect for me. It's balanced, it stays in tune well, it hasn't had a neck break or headstock break. The burst is the right shade for me. I like the look of the top. None of these things were changed or affected in any way by changing the electronics or the pickups. So no, I did not buy the wrong R9. And changing something about your guitar doesn't mean that you bought the wrong guitar. It means that your tastes change, your playing changes, what you want to hear out of your guitar changes. And that's what happened here. After spending almost 2 years with it, I started to notice little things about it that I didn't notice in the store that day, and I didn't notice in the first few weeks or the honeymoon period of owning the guitar, that kind of stuck out to me as changes that I would have liked to make, namely the pickups. The one thing about the stock pickups that I didn't like was the fact that they were wax potted. Yes, wax potting affects the overall sound of a PAF style humbucker. It just does. We can argue about this in the comments until we're blue in the face. I've owned potted and unpotted pickups. I just made the switch from potted to unpotted pickups. There is a difference. How big of a difference is it to the person listening is arguable, but to me, playing the guitar, it sounds different, it feels different, and it makes me play the guitar differently. And I prefer the unpotted, more microphonic sound of an unpotted pickup. But wanting to make that change doesn't mean that I bought the wrong guitar or I should sell this and go start a whole other hunt for a different Les Paul, because I wanted a little bit more top end, a little bit more clarity out of the guitar overall. And that's one thing that a lot of people seemed upset by. You shouldn't change anything about the guitar. It's perfect. It came from the Gibson factory as it should be. And by changing it, you're stealing its soul. You're stealing its mojo, which is weird to me. Personally, I just can't imagine buying a guitar this expensive and swapping everything. Apparently, the vintage guitar LARP has no boundaries, but hey, as long as you're happy with the guitar. Insightful tech video too. It's not a bad comment, but I do want to address something there. First of all, I didn't change everything about the guitar. I just changed the pickups and the electronics and the tailpiece. We did put a lighter tailpiece on it. But the second part of that comment that I want to focus on is buying a guitar that expensive and changing everything about it. And I think that's the rub here. I think the people that are upset are mad at me because I took an expensive guitar, an R9 custom shop, and changed something about it. A lot of people seem to think I spent $10,000 on this. I did not spend $10,000 on this guitar. It was nowhere near that expensive. But the changes that I made to this guitar, Zach and I had talked about weeks ahead of time. The intention was trying to make this my burst and trying to get it closer to a late 50s spec Les Paul for no other reason than I just wanted to. I wanted to put 50s wiring in it with old style paper and oil caps on. I wanted to have real deal, super accurate recreations of late 50s humbuckers because I wanted it. That era of Les Paul, that era of Gibson is what speaks to me. It's exciting to me. And I wanted to take this guitar and move it an inch closer to that era. And I don't know that I would call that LARPing necessarily, but you know, to each their own. But the idea of someone taking something as expensive as this and changing anything about it is, I think, what is upsetting a lot of people. And this goes to the core issue that I want to talk about here. This is a tool. This is a tool for a job. All of my guitars, my amplifiers, my recording gear, my pedals, they're all tools that help me do a job. Sometimes that job is playing, backing up an artist, performing on stage. Sometimes it's writing and recording and performing my own original music. Sometimes that's making content for this YouTube channel. All of those are part of my job, part of my career. And I have these tools to do that job. I think where a lot of people are starting to get upset is they don't see a guitar like this as a tool. They see it as sort of a precious item, a precious heirloom, something that's, you know, not supposed to be messed with or changed in any way, almost like a piece of jewelry or a collectible piece of art. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's the difference here. I don't see this as a super precious thing to be, you know, respected and revered. This is a tool, and I treat it like a tool. Like if you look at the back here, all of that buckle rash that you see there, that's me. None of that was on this guitar when I bought it. I did all of that because I gig this guitar. I use it. I play it on an almost daily basis. And that buckle rash doesn't bother me at all. In fact, I'm kind of proud of it. You know, every one of these scratches and dents and dings, other than the original Relic job, came from a gig or making a video. It came from using this guitar to make something, and I'm proud of that. The other side of this too is like, this is my guitar. I paid for it. In fact, if I wanted to take a knife and carve my initials into the back of the guitar, I'm gonna do that. I'm just kidding, I probably wouldn't do that, but I mean, I might, you know, could be cool. It's like this comment: you spend a ton of money, then do the same thing I do to my made in Mexico stuff. Crazy. Just because a certain guitar is more expensive doesn't mean that you shouldn't tweak it, that you shouldn't change it to suit your needs, or to make it more suited to you and your sound and your style, or to customize it, make it your own. There is no dollar amount that you could spend where, you know, above that threshold, you shouldn't touch the guitar, you shouldn't change the guitar. If it's going to make you more excited to play it, or it represents you and your voice and your creative style better, you should do it. And that was another thing I saw in the comments a lot is, oh, you've ruined the guitar. Well, did David Gilmour ruin his Black Strat by changing almost every single component on it? Did Van Halen ruin Frankenstein by doing all of the crazy mods that he did to it? Did Jimmy Page ruin his actual Burst by doing all of the pickup swaps and changes that he did? No. In fact, those mods have become part of the history and provenance of those guitars. And when they do reissues of those guitars, collectors want those mods recreated in excruciating details. They weren't ruining the guitar or stealing the vibe or the mojo of the guitar. It was the artist changing, modifying their tool to suit a job that they wanted it to do. This is crazy. A pro player could pick up an Epiphone Les Paul and sound just as good as a custom shop Les Paul. People read into stuff way too much. Didn't Tim Pierce say this was a great sounding Les Paul? I'd listen to him. This is another interesting point of view for me because, yeah, a great player can pick up a cheap guitar and make it sound great. Just like a great player can pick up an expensive guitar and make it sound great. Totally valid. You don't need to do all of this stuff that I did to this guitar to have a great sounding guitar. It's never been the case. That's never been something I've advocated on this channel. There's plenty of examples of great art that have been made with cheap, inexpensive, accessible instruments and gear over the years. There's no correlation between money spent on something and quality of sound or quality of art. It really does come down to the player. It's the craftsman and the tool. It's kind of funny that he made the video about a year or so ago proclaiming how this Les Paul was the one after playing a shitload of reissues at Norms. Clearly not. He already changed all the electronics. Anything other than actually practicing, am I right? Now, I already addressed the other part of this comment, but anything other than actually practicing, I'm not sure what that means. Like, does that mean if you mod your guitars or you tinker with your guitars that you aren't a good player or you don't practice or you don't play? Because I do. I play every day. Like, I play guitar a lot. I practice guitar a lot. And then there was a response to this comment. It's all about new content for his channel. The pickups were fine. You know what? Yeah, this was about content for my channel. Not exclusively, but part of the reason we made this video was to make the video. When I started this YouTube channel 6.5, almost 7 years ago, the general idea behind it was that I would make videos about guitar and about music that I wish I could have watched when I was a 14-year-old kid in their bedroom trying to figure this stuff out. Because YouTube didn't exist, and I didn't have a guitar teacher. No one in my family was musical. It was literally just me in my room with a import Chinese Strat trying to figure all this stuff out. And I genuinely believe that if I had had access to a YouTube channel like this one, or Paul David's, or Rick Beato, or Corey Congilio, any of my other friends in this space, I genuinely believe that I would be a better, more well-rounded, more experienced guitar player and musician today than I am. And so that's the reason why I make the videos that I do. I'm a teacher, I'm an educator, just like everyone else on this platform in this niche. We're sharing our perspective, or in this case, sharing the perspective of others like Zach and the expertise of others in an effort to try and educate people. Like, hey, these are the parts of a guitar that you can change at home on your own, and these are the effects that it will have on the guitar. Let me show you what changing the pots do. Let me show you what changing the pickups do. That's the whole point of the video. That's the whole point of this channel. I don't know if this was supposed to be like a gotcha moment, like, oh, we're on to you, man. You're just making videos because you make videos. Like, yeah, that's the point of this whole thing. Like, and I mentioned earlier in the video that for me, this is a tool for a job. And a big part of my job now is making content on the internet. This is how I make my living now. And that means that I use these tools for that job. Sometimes that means that I intentionally make changes and modifications to my guitars so that I can showcase and teach people how to do the same thing at home. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, see above. If and when I ever want to, I can go back to stock. Normally, I don't make videos like this. Normally, I don't get in the comments. This one in particular, I think really got under my skin. Not because people were attacking me over this. I'm used to that. I get attacked in comments and forum posts and on Reddit. It comes with the territory. The reason it bothers me, though, is I know that a lot of the same people that are saying these things in my comment section are saying them in Facebook groups and forums and on Reddit to other players, especially young players or beginner players. It is what it is. I'm not gonna change it with this video, but the sort of online toxic rhetoric that happens in this community around things like changing the pickups in your R9, it doesn't help. It's not good. And again, I'm not necessarily talking about me here. I'm talking about, there's some kid, some young girl out there that just got her first electric guitar and she's trying to learn about this stuff and she's spending time on forums or Facebook groups or whatever it is. And there's these toxic comments being thrown at people for asking beginner questions or basic questions or for modding something, changing something on their Les Paul, for example. They're trying to learn, they're trying to experience the world. And when I see stuff like this in my comments section, it's just not helpful. It doesn't do anything for the community. It doesn't do anything for the person asking the question other than making them feel bad about what they did or what they do or don't know. Like, that doesn't help. It's not a good thing. And in some ways, I'm actually glad that I didn't have access to the internet when I was 14 years old in my bedroom trying to figure out guitar, because the flip side of that is that I would have run into this type of thing. I would have run into these people online and it would have had a negative impact on me. It could have completely turned me off from guitar entirely. So that's really the point that I want to get at here. To each their own. I completely understand if you watched my video and thought I would never do that to an R9. I would never change a single detail about it. That's totally fine and totally fair. But the toxicity and the just vitriol in the comments about what I chose to do and why I chose to do it is indicative of a bigger issue in this community as a whole. And it sucks to think that there are young players and inexperienced players out there that are also experiencing this kind of toxicity online. And it's just not good, man. And the last point that I want to make here, going to my friend's shop that he just opened and having him spend an afternoon with me going through this guitar and teaching me stuff that I didn't know is important to me. Zach is a close friend of mine. We've been friends for years, and that's now part of the story of this guitar. It's adding to the sentimental value to me. Just like buying the guitar at Norm's with Tim that day is a big part of the story of this guitar. Now when I look at it and I see these pickup covers or I see these knobs, it makes me think of my friend Zach, and it makes me think of the day that he and I spent working on this guitar. I like it. I like the way the guitar sounds. I like the way it functions now, and it's adding to the story and the history that I have with this Les Paul. It's made the guitar more valuable to me. At the end of the day, I think that's what matters most. It's your guitar. Do what you want with it. That's going to do it for today's video. Thank you for sitting through my rant. I want to know what you think in the comment section down below. Also, don't forget you can check out the brand new Fretboard Fundamentals Ultimate course. We're doing a special launch week discount. Link is down below. The course will never be this discounted ever again. So if you want to check that out, click the link down there. Also have links to Zach's shop, High Voltage Guitars, down below. And yeah, appreciate you guys watching. My name is Rhett Scholl. I'll catch you on the next one.